Hello, and welcome to the Brothers in Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value in the areas of life, leadership, and community. It is March 5th, 2022. Man, we already 3 months in to the year, bro. March 5th, 2022. This is season 2, episode 5. We're 5 deep in season 2. Brothers in Influence. My name is Ian Williams. They call me the Purpose Coach, CEO and founder of Reconcile Consulting, as well as Reconcile Coaching and Therapy Services. Man, this is what we here for, fellas. I happen to be in the middle. It's the first time I'm in the middle, so I'm literally shoulder to shoulder. I got one on my left, one on my right. I don't know what to do with myself, bro, when I'm flanked by greatness on both sides.
Flanked by greatness.
Oh, yo, man.
Write that book. Flanked by greatness.
Ooh,
write that book, brother.
Oh, man.
At first, I thought I was in church there for a minute. I thought she was about to preach.
When they say,
like a sermon title.
When they say surround yourself with people smarter than you, bro. If that was this picture right here would be it. This picture right here. So, without further ado, these great men, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I simply couldn't do it justice. Brothers, what's good?
Hey, I'm just flanked by greatness, man. That's all I got to say.
I don't know, but I don't see nobody on both sides of you. Y'all on both sides of you.
I know I got at least, at the very least, I got 2 numbers I can call. So I know I'm flanked by greatness. At the least, you know what I'm saying?
At least.
I am Shawtae Price. I am your thought coach, you know, because we understand that thoughts become things. If you want anything in your life, you have to think it before you can have it. If you haven't seen it, you can't have it, and you can't be it. I am the founder of Priceless Encounters, because I believe that the encounters we have in our lives can change us for the better or for the worse. It just depends on how we look at it. All right.
Come on, man. Hey. You gotta react first for you. He came with that heat, boy. He was dropping bars.
No, that's what I was about to say. Now he just come in just dropping, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, ooh.
That's what happened when you're flanked by greatness.
Hey, when you are flanked by greatness, hey, like you said, I got at least 2 numbers I can call off top. 2 numbers off top. Hey, yeah, this is Sherrod Ledet, man. Your leadership locksmith, aka the professor, aka the growth of Greater Lexington. Man, I'm just happy to be here. Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be honest, it was a long week. It was a long week, but yeah, I'm here. I'm ready to get into our discussion today. I'm ready. So
something I've been thinking about. My week got busy. The crazy thing, what I'm finna say, I planned on jumping on the group to say it, and work just started getting on me. But I was just thinking about, engage, the word engage, right? And how, when it's a relationship and people getting engaged, if it's a machine, if something isn't engaged, the machine doesn't work right. And we kind of miss the importance of engagement, right? We say we want things, but we're not willing to allow somebody else to give us advice, right? I want to be a business person. I should be able to ask somebody that's a business person. You know, I mentioned before reading in a book where a guy said he offered, he wanted to learn about business, so he offered people $100 just to sit with him for an hour, right? That was his way of engaging something that he wanted. And so a lot of times we don't get what we want, or we don't get where we want to be, because we're not willing to engage in that thing we desire, right? I want to be a coach, so I'm engaged with people that are on that path. But I have to take initiative to do it, right? How do I start my car to start? I have to, well, we got push buttons now, but I still have to either turn a key or push that button to engage that ignition switch to get my car to start, my vehicle to start. So that's something I just been thinking about, because when we too often just say we want things, but we're not willing to engage that thing that we so desire. So I wanted to bring that to the table. What do you guys think about that? Silence.
Yeah.
I'm processing it, right? Because I'm wondering, like, I'm thinking through, what are the barriers to engagement? What are some of the barriers that you found to engagement?
That I found? So one thing is, I would say, this kind of even jumps back to last week, right? When we talked about the difference between your values and beliefs. Beliefs change, but values stay the same. So, and where that comes through knowing yourself, right? So until I knew myself, or I was clear about who I am and what I wanted to do, I wasn't able to engage. I just stayed that shy guy sitting in the background, wanting and wishing, versus when I found out who I was, that I was this reserved yet people oriented person, then I was able to say, okay, this is who I am. So now this is how I engage in the realm of business, right? Asking questions, asking people that's done it before, or reading books about people who've done it before.
Yeah, I think that's a good one, bro. There's a lot there. I think let's take a couple minutes and just unpack that. Sherrod, why don't you kind of elaborate on like self-awareness and how you're wired, and how that could be a barrier, or it could be what sets you up for success.
That how self-awareness does?
Yeah, the self-awareness that, Shante was just kind of highlighting, like, knowing himself and how he's naturally reserved, etc. And once he, became aware of that, it actually opened up a path forward in how he engages. We don't all. I think that kind of brings to the point, we don't all engage the same, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and and I think even to that point of engagement is also, how has engagement been modeled for us? So, self-awareness just in itself is an engagement with yourself, but even from the perspective of how, what does that look like and how do I do that? Right. So I'm even sitting here and still kind of digesting it myself, thinking about, like, so in situations, or if it's that of in a relationship, or if it's that in business, what is the intent of the engagement? Like, am I engaging to gain something, or am I engaging to give something? Like, what is the engagement and the purpose behind it? Yeah. So I'm still over here trying to figure out, like, what he dropped a heavy one on me. Y'all got me over here kind of stomped a little bit. Like, okay, what is this?
Well, my bro, I think Shante was, kind of breaking down, like, one of the barriers to engagement. Like, why, basically, like, you want something, but you don't go after it. And a lot of times, I think we want to have stuff nicely packaged and figured out before we actually pursue it, but things generally just don't come that way. And so one of the things that he said he discovered about himself was that, because he is naturally reserved but also people oriented, the way that he engages is by observing one, and then using his observations to ask thoughtful questions, so he can kind of unpack the path forward, for lack of better phrasing, right? Is that what you're saying, Shante?
Yes,
and
sir.
So I think that ties directly, like, to one of my things. So I'm very similar in that in that way that you're wired, Shante. So one of the things that I always talked about, one of my things that my mentor highlighted for me, is what I often mention just in my regular conversations, like, dealing with analysis paralysis or a need to know how, right? I get so focused on the end goal that, and the fact that I don't know how to get from point A to point B, that I end up not doing anything at all. Because it's like until I know how to get there, I'm not doing anything to get there. But that's actually kind of backwards and self-defeating. Where I have to, if I can trace my way back from the destination to where I am, then I can kind of plot my way forward. Like, what's the next step? So, for example, if I'm in high school and I want to go to college, then what the first step I can take, like, of course, work on my grades. But like, if I want to explore the idea of college, I'm not sure where I want to go. The first thing I can do is start researching colleges, right? That's something that doesn't necessarily get me to where I want to go immediately, but it actually gives me a way forward. Once I start to research colleges, and I can narrow down like my interests and things of that nature. Whereas, coming from a background where, very few people may have graduated from college or been and had that college experience. And so I could be intimidated, but like, well, very few people have had this. I don't know what it looks like. I've never seen it walked out or demonstrated. And so if they couldn't do it, why could I do it? Which ties to those beliefs that Shantae also highlighted. So, I mean, this is a number of things. Like, how do I start business? Like, how do I navigate business? Like, I'm in the business. I'm a founder and CEO of a company with, prior to this, I had no business experience. I didn't know anybody. I wasn't related to anybody that had business experience. Like, I knew of people, but didn't have like intimate relationships with business owners. So for all intents and purposes, based on previous belief systems, that would have been out of my reach. But taking a small step of filing for an LLC or figuring out how to file, doing the research, doing that, and then actually following through. Now I'm a full blown business owner. I got two offices. I got, we're profitable. You know what I'm saying? We got a couple people working with us. We got a team. We got a circle of other business partners. But if I didn't like take the time to use the observations, and ask questions and be willing to figure it out and grow along the way. What my mentor says is we grow our wings on the way down. Like, take the leap and grow your wings on the way down. And I would never have engaged.
Yeah. So you brought it into a different context for me, right? I'm slow, but I'm worth waiting on, right? So
no doubt.
So you bring it into a different context because, again, like you said, and you started to go there, right? Even to Shantae's point of bringing this great conversation into the light of, again, even from our perspective of us being C's and really understanding that self-awareness component. And there's a couple of things that actually in the conversation yesterday that kind of hit me, and you just hit it more so than you think. And it was really being able to, again, from the perspective of engagement, right? For us C's, even for me, I find myself now, I'm a lot more engaging with people, and I can find myself, I can actually engage and be the first one to actually be the engager and not be engaged, right? And the reason why I've done that is like Shantae said, like, I'm starting to find that I'm a little bit more people oriented than I thought I was. But it's all about our ability to listen and then ask questions. So one of the things that in a conversation I had yesterday, and just a quick shout out to my man A.M. Noel, who the conversation I had with, he was talking about how we got to listen differently. Now follow me, because when we listen differently, it actually puts us in not just in a different state of active listening. So not continuing just to listen, but listen to what they're saying, looking at all aspects of communication. But here's the thing that he also brought to the conversation was, he said, in listening differently, we also got to ask questions for participation. So when you ask questions, now you're getting them to engage specifically and participate in the conversation. Does that make sense? And the reason why I say that is because even for me, and as you guys know, as high C's, we're analytical. We always want information. So our engagement is through our ability to ask the right questions, or to ask questions to get information that improv gives us the comfortability to actually do the engagement. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Y'all
sir.
not hear me no more? Oh.
No, you good.
I was like,
You
damn,
make
did I
sense.
lose sound again? Dang.
And I think part of what you were saying about the active listening is important, because what's the difference? We too often we listen to respond, and if I'm listening to respond, I'm going to miss something, right? And I'm pretty sure if anybody that's married understands that, right? We'll respond. Our wife is talking, and when we respond. Our response don't got nothing to do with what she just said, because we're listening to respond, or we may be engaged in something else at the same time. And whereas we need to disengage. If it's a conversation, we need to disengage from what we're doing and be focused. As active listening is being focused on that individual at any given time, and actually listening, not to respond but to understand. We talked about I think last week too. We were talking about knowledge and wisdom, and I brought up how knowledge is consumed, wisdom is dispensed. But what's in between them too? Understanding. Because if you don't have understanding, you can't really dispense wisdom. So it's the same thing with that conversation that we're having with a significant other or anybody. If we're actively listening, we're listening to understand, not just to respond. Because once we understand what the conversation about, or what the individual asking the question or making a statement is saying, only then can we clearly respond, if there was a response needed in the situation. But yeah, that like I said, that's just one thing that was on my that engaged, because as we're building our group, right? That's one of the key components of the group, is being able to engage. If you're not engaged in the group, there's no benefit. There's honestly no benefit of you being there, right? Because we don't want it, just like I said before, we don't want it just to be another group. We want it to be beneficial to you, just not another group on your Facebook page, right? And me myself, just giving an example for me. Wait, so let me ask you guys a question. So Ian, where did you learn about business, just in general?
Man, that's a great question. I think it was several sources. I think I learned most by doing. I mean, and to that point, I'm still learning, right? I don't have it all figured out. I feel like over time, I made connections, built relationships with people who are coming from the right background and experience, were able to help inform me of certain things. Like I think about, from an accounting perspective, taxes and things like that. I feel like, people were brought in my path that I could connect with, and I could, lean into from a relational standpoint to ask questions and really kind of get some advisement, which really have turned into some longer term relationships where, I'm no longer just receiving, but I'm also supporting and adding value as well to those individuals. And so, but if I wasn't open to that, or if I wasn't doing anything, then I would never have probably met those individuals. I never would have made those connections.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Man, I just woke up like this. No, I'm playing. Right. No, yeah, I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, where did I learn business? But I mean, I would have to, even kind of echo what Ian said. It was just by doing. But even in that, once that really came into my mindset of, okay, hey, what is business? I actually say no. I actually learned more about business when I found my passion and love for leadership. And when I found my love and passion for leadership and became obsessed with leadership and really grown in that area, that is when I identified and then found my love and obsession for business. So engaging leadership allowed me to then engage business and learning more about business and all the ins and outs and different things. It just allowed me to engage and learn more about both aspects and then how they work together, and then so many other aspects of that. And one of the things I was going to bring up though, Shate, when you was kind of, y'all were just talking, it was just even engagement from the perspective of even from a business perspective is, engagement is important even as employees, right? From an employee standpoint, if you think about in business, a lot of times employees or real good employees, right, or those your top performers are really powered by engagement, right? That's how they feel connected, because they're talented. They bring strategically strategic value to and talents to an organization, but it's the engagement that gets them involved, right? It's almost like that piece of the puzzle, right? Because there's a big vision, there's a big picture, but engagement is how you actually then start putting those pieces together, that of your employees, all those different components, right? So yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, I started learning about businesses again through engaging through leadership that led me into business, and then I became obsessed with business and learning business, reading business, eating business, now teaching business. Right? Just like my man, I got a couple of businesses. So again, once you start engaging from all those different, like you ain't got no choice but to start learning everything that you possibly can about it, which changes your engagement scope, so to speak. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, you know what? I'd like to co-sign. I just like to co-sign that as well, because I feel like my experience aligns. Even though I didn't mention leadership specifically, but I agree. So I just tagged everything Sherrod said onto what I said, get a much clearer picture. But the cool thing about the leadership locksmith, the growth coach at Greater Lexington, man, he's probably one of the most naturally driven people I know. Like he don't need nobody to get his engine started for him. Like you just give him the runway, he gonna go. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that based on his story, like as evidence of that, but I think we all have because we're wired, because we know how we're wired, we know that we can kind of get stuck in the mud and spinning our wheels. But once the path is clear, then there's really nothing that can stop us once we get going.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
Ian. Okay, but go ahead, Sate. I'll come back to him.
No, you're good.
Well, no, because he made a good point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he made a good point, because he said, once the path is clear, right? And let's just even stay with the analogy of the runway, right? And a runway even for an airplane, right? So again, there's a whole process before the actual plane gets to the runway to then take off. Right? There's a whole process that takes place. But what I heard you say, bro, was that again, once the runway is cleared, boom, you then take off. But in order to get to the runway, in order to get that clarity, it's all through engagement. Like again, in order for the pilot or for the plane to get to the runway, it had to engage in various different aspects, right? Even before the pilot got on the plane, he had to then engage with whoever he had to do to get the information, to get his coordinates, to get like that engagement, open up other accesses and up other doors to allow him to then get into the airplane, get into the cockpit, that then got it right. Does that make sense? That then cleared the runway for him to then take off and go. Because could you imagine just getting in the airplane, getting to the runway, taking off, but then not even know where you're going, right? Or have no plan in place, right? Or because even in the engagement now, people know who I am and know where I'm at. Because again, the air traffic controller, they got to know the planes that are in the air so they can direct them on where they're going. Because they then, in order to land the plane, they have to then engage with somebody in order to land the plane, because they have a destination. But if I just take off and I'm in the air with nowhere to go and no one knows I'm up there, how am I going to land that plane? No, I'm just going to be up there until I get out of gas, right? Or if I try to engage with somebody, they're going to be like, well, dude, why are you in the air? I didn't even know you was in the air. Where are you going? Why are you landing here? You can't land now. I got other planes coming, right? So the engagement, I don't know. That's when you said that, bro. That is what that took me.
No, that's cool. And that's why I asked the question to kind of hit that point about engagement, right?
Mhm.
That's one of the key components of engagement. Asking questions, right? You if you want to learn something new, ask questions. Uh Great leaders ask good leaders ask great questions, right? Right. That's if you want something. And I learned that although I was a reserved individual, but I was people oriented. I leaned toward that people
Mm.
engagement. I learned to ask questions. And when you're asking questions and getting back to listening about those questions, not asking to respond, because there's something I want. That was something I wanted, so I asked a question about it so that I can receive what I wanted, right?
Mhm.
Whether it was business, real estate, things like that. And I asked you
Mhm.
guys a question: where did you learn? So for me, my learning was a different path. My learning started behind some prison walls because I made a
Mm.
decision that I didn't want to do the same thing I had been doing to come back to the same situation once I was released from prison. So every in prison, there was doctors, there was lawyers, there was people that were real estate across the board. People that were, regardless of what they were in there for, that were really willing to share their business experience. And at every opportunity I had, I took advantage of it. If it was
Mm.
a class on real estate, I didn't know nothing about real estate. I'm interested though, right? If it was class on business in general and LLCs and what that stuff was, I took a class in it. I took a business course. We had a college that was in there teaching. I took the business course because I was determined to engage in something different than what I did to get into prison, right? So that's
Right.
why I asked the question, because sometimes for us, we even got to ask ourselves questions, right? What do I really want? Where do I really want to be? Especially when we're building businesses. You know, what do we really
Mm.
want? Where do we want to be in 2 years, 5 years, right? So
Hmm.
you
Now,
on mute, you on mute, Ian.
ah,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
Ah,
I'm
there
here.
you go. Ah.
One of
No,
the things,
we ain't finna miss that.
one of the things that I think is being said that we're not really outright saying, like, this is one of those things we're talking about. Things, the themes are self-awareness, right? How do you figure out your way forward, and then how do you really interact with the world around you,
Mhm.
right? Which is, all under that idea of self-awareness. And we talked about business, we talked about relationships with fellow co-workers, talking about relationships in marriage. Like, this is like all around beneficial. And while Sherrod talked about the process of getting the runway clear, we all three of us are people of the process, but not everybody's wired like that, though.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people just need to know what's in it for me, and then they gone. You know what I'm saying? The process, whether the grounds crew is still trying to fuel up the plane, but that individual is ready to go as soon as they know what's in it for me. Um, a couple other, if that's one person, and another person could be like, well, is it something? Is it a place where I can have fun? Like, I can feel excited and be have will I be able to bring my energy? Will I be able to connect with other people? Then that's all they need to know. You know what I'm saying? And so those are a few questions they might ask. So the grounds crew might help get them prepared for that, and then they go. And then another group will be like, well, how do we do this? And can I take my the people that are closest to me? Can I rock with those people?
Mhm.
Do this together? Like, is this a family affair? Is this a can I bring my inner circle?
Mhm.
And then they might be ready to go. And then on the last group, they just want to know, why is this important? Is this significant to who I am and where I'm going? And then through that process, then they're gonna be ready to go.
Yeah.
So depending on where you fall in those categories, you might have different needs in regards to what's going to get you to the point where you're ready to engage. And so figuring that out then is going to save you so much time, because then you can go right to the source.
Right.
Get what you need so you can go. But I think a lack of awareness will put you in a position where you're compromised, because you're constantly looking. Well, I might not be motivated by who I was going to be there, but I'm glad you told me. And now I need to go figure out, the next, like, what else is there? What I'm looking for is the specifics. I'm a person of the process. Make sure my gas tank is on full.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that the wheels is checked, so that I can bed when I come back, right? Make sure that the air traffic controller is on the radio and we can hear each other clearly. Naturally, I might be a person of details. And so I need that information. But once I have it, I can go. But if I go to the wrong places looking for information, then I'm going to be derailed. I'm not going to get what I need. It's going to delay me. It's going to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
All comes back to that self-awareness. How are you wired? Shante was talking about how he's reserved, but he's people-oriented. Like, that can be confusing. Like, imagine, you know what I'm saying, those that are like that, being in school and, like, I love the group, I love my people, but man, I need to get away. Like, or I'm overwhelmed, overstimulated, because too much is going on, and I'm not even sure how to function in this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not knowing that they need to retreat, recharge, and come back and engage again, but they just trying to stay they stuck in the mix, trying to be like other people. Game changer, man. It's self-awareness, bro. This is why we do what we do in business, and we help with that process as coaches. We have like assessments and things that we can do, where we can kind of walk you through how you're wired, and it really helps put you in the best position to succeed no matter where you are, because you know what your strengths and your opportunities and your needs are. What are your needs, bro? Because ain't nobody gonna take care of your needs but you, fam. Nobody will do that. And that includes even when you're married. Like, if you don't tell your spouse what you need, it's your responsibility to communicate it. Then your needs ain't gonna get met. You're gonna be sitting around mad and frustrated. You're gonna be sitting around. And
those are facts.
And you can direct that at them, but it's your fault because you didn't communicate well enough.
Right. I always say those unspoken expectations.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's amazing that in relationships, there's always an expectation, but the reality of it is, and we always even kind of engage our relationships based on, or measure our relationships based on expectations, but we don't share the expectations. Yep. It's like that. Oh, well, you're just supposed to know that. Well, nah, I ain't supposed to know that unless you tell me. Right. And again, engagement brings about that comfortability to where you can have those type of conversations. Right. But one of the things, bro, but you was killing it. Like, you was killing it, because like really engagement. So let's just keep it real simple and go back to the definition, man. This is to participate and become involved. That's engagement, right? It talks about to attract, to be attractive, right? To put attention to. So even when you were just talking about, and let's just continue to use kind of the analogy, and as far as even with self-awareness, and using the analogy of the kind of the airport, right? The DISC assessment, right? Through Eric Thomas and Extreme Execution, they use that framework. Like, there's a pilot, there's a flight attendant, there's a ground crew, and then there's the air traffic controller. That engagement is different, but all necessary. Right. And when you were just talking, you were talking specifically that, again, and even I think what the whole thing, just to sum it up, is that you have to engage based on your role. Right. If I'm a pilot, then my engagement is based on getting the information necessary in order for me to execute and get to the destination. As the ground crew, as you were speaking to, Ian, is that, again, they're all about pace, right? They're looking at that, again, what's going on in the environment? How can I control that? What's the pace going on in there? They're team players. right? They engage from that perspective. The flight attendant, they engage people, so they're all about the energy. That's why they're on there making sure, hey, can I get you a snack? Can I get you some peanuts? You need a pillow? And they make the service in the experience enjoyable, right? Ground not the ground crew, but your air traffic controller, they're at the top. They want the information, they want the details. They need to be able to make sure, hey, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G is there, right? And if something's missing, well, hold on, there's a break in the process. How do I get that there? And again, like you were saying, once we know how we're wired, we know how then to engage. But then other people then know how to engage us.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's a two-way street, right? Just like communication.
Understand how to do that. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Because we're going to engage in our natural personality and what makes us comfortable, but it's also going to allow other people to feel comfortable to engage from their perspective as well. And I even thought about engagement is all about building bridges. How do I build bridges? It's through engagement. Once I engage, like, here's the reality. Look at the bridge that's been built right now between the three of us. Me and Shantae got connected. We engaged through the John Maxwell. We then built a bridge between ourselves. You two then engaged, built a bridge between you two. Then because of the bridges and engagement that you guys created, I was able to then cross that bridge and then engage with you. Now we got this whole community, right, of brothers that we're looking to engage with and build bridges to help them, right? Yeah. And it's not even build bridges, more so than maintain the ones that we've already created and then build new ones into other areas and things like that. So this engagement, like you said, bro, it's like, I don't know if I done took it all the way here, brought it back down, or just shot a hole through it. I don't know, but I know I'm ready now. I'm primed.
Yeah, it's good. It's good because it's like, how do we engage? Like, how do we do it? Like, what does engagement look like? And the answer is it can be different depending on how you're wired. And the great thing about it is the more self-aware you become, the more flexibility you gain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's powerful. That's powerful. And you just don't understand. Like, while we can look at this personality assessment. First of all, if we walk you through something like this is not meant to define you, right? This is not meant to say this is who you are. This is how you will always be in every situation and circumstance. This is giving you insight into how you're currently wired, a snapshot in this point in time, which is great, right? But we also know that as we go into different environments, we engage with different groups and different circles that are a part of our lives, we don't necessarily function the same. So back when I was in a corporate space, I was very detail oriented. I was reserved. I would observe. I could offer my feedback and things like that based on how I processed information. But then when I'm with my boys, you know what I'm saying, I'm more, I might seem more outgoing, or if I'm up on stage, I'm going to seem more outgoing. People think that I'm more extroverted. I'm more outgoing when I'm on stage. And they're like, wait, when you're off stage, you kind of sit back, you lay back, you quiet. You know what I'm saying? You don't look like you need to be in control all the time. It's like, yeah, because it's not like naturally, I'm naturally reserved. Like on this podcast, people might think like I'm naturally outgoing, but I'm laid back in the cut. You know what I'm saying? And so the flexibility comes in where once you're aware of how you're wired, then you can lean into some of those other attributes. Because there may be at some point where you're called on. Like if you're a husband, a father, if you're an owner of a business, somebody at some point is going to be like, hey, man, we need you to pilot this and get us to where we need to go. Mm-hmm. And that may not be where I naturally operate from, but I have the ability to grow in that area. And I may never be the greatest pilot, but I can definitely fly the plane and make sure that we get to the destination well enough so that we can do, you know what I'm saying? So that all is well at the end of the day, right? And so I can glean from my brothers that are pilots, pick up a little bit of what they got. I can glean from my brothers that are flight attendants, so that I know how to engage and interact and just learn how to enjoy people more. I can learn how to engage with the grounds crew and make sure that all the boxes are checked. So it allows me to be flexible and realize what my strengths and weaknesses are and say, all right, I may not be naturally a pilot, so maybe I need to ask for some help, right? Maybe I need a little bit extra support in that area so that I can then get to where I do what I need to do. It empowers you. It's an empowering thing. And that's kind of things that get us excited because we want to empower you as you are navigating your journey, whether you want to start a business, whether you want to get promoted at work. Like, the potential in you is huge. And we want to help you become aware of it and help you tap into it and really make the most of your life, leadership, and the community that you're in.
Yeah, like they say, you can't you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been, right? And that's that self-awareness component. And when Sharad was talking about, he had brought up the relationship thing. One thing I found is that you know how they say when it's two people, it's one side, it's his side, her side, and then the truth. And I was thinking about that, and I said one of the things is a lot of time relationships, one side will try while the other side isn't trying. The other side will try while the other side isn't trying. But the reality, if both of the individuals don't engage, if both of the individuals don't say, okay, this is what we need to do to fix or do whatever we need to do, it won't get done. And oftentimes the relationships breaks down because of that, because it tends to be one-sided. And that's across the board, whether it's a business relationship. How many business has broken up? We can go down some of the biggest companies it is, and then the people who started it, then they broke off because one person decided to do it their way, the other person their way, and they never came together to say that, guess what? We started this. We began this in the beginning together. We have to continue to do it together. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things I heard, because that gets back to the engagement component and being self-aware who you are and how you respond to certain situations.
Yeah. And I like, again, just I don't want to beat it too much, but again, you know, like you mentioned, Ian, that again, the pilot, right? But like each position and role, they're independent, but they're also dependent, right? They're independent as far as they're in their actions in the way, but they're also dependent. So again, the pilot does depend on the flight attendant to keep. And then the pilot also depends on the ground crew, and also depends on, right, the air traffic controller. Because again, as the pilot, I'm flying the airplane, like I'm making those decisions, right? But I don't know everything else. Like I don't know what's going on in the back of the airplane. I don't know what's going on with my the people. I can't think of what they're called, like the
Traffic
customers.
control?
No, the people at the
people on
the plane. Like I don't know what's going on back there. I'm in the cockpit, right? I don't know all the aspects of the airplane. I know what's supposed to go on, and I trust my ground crew to make sure that everything that they were supposed to do is get done. Like again, basically what I'm saying is everybody has their role and position, right? But then I have to roll and trust and believe that they're going to be able to get all that done, right? So it's this whole engagement, and I guess what I was trying to go is that you know, and I think Ian said it, is that it's not one or the other. This isn't a deciding factor, like, oh, this is who you are. Like it's a snapshot, right? I think one of the things that within this assessment, it also shows you is kind of your natural and your adaptive style. Like Ian was mentioning, like on here, I guarantee you would think that all of us are just these amazing, like extroverts. We're always talking and all that, Like Ian, hey, bro, like I'm in my purpose, right? I'm in my passion. I'm in my calling. This is what I do. But get me off the podcast, get me out in front of from off the stage or out of the classroom or just sitting down by. You ain't gonna get 2 words out of me. But when it's time for me to do something, to actually walk into my gift and do that, right? Then I can tap into my eye. Then I tap into all these other aspects. So.
Yeah, and that just kind of ties to what I was saying about that flexibility, man. You know, because naturally, like basically how you highlighted it, right? If I'm called on stage, I'm taught to deliver a keynote speech. I'm gonna be up there. I'm interacting with the crowd. You know, hopefully, you know, there's some energy, there's some excitement, there's some laughter. You know what I'm saying? All of those good things. And when I come off the stage, boom, I'm just chilling. And so what I can see, because now I understand that that's my natural pattern. I understand, okay, because I'm in this environment where there's an opportunity to engage and perhaps even network, make some other, which is, making those relationships in a mutually beneficial relationships in business. Then I can choose. Okay, I feel like I want to just lay back because that's what I would naturally do, but I'm going to come out of that and really try to connect, right, and engage so that I can make connections. But if I'm not aware of that, I don't even have. I'm robbing myself of the choice because of awareness, right? Unless my tank is on E and I need to really go reserve, take some time, then I should be able to muster up the energy to do that, to allow my personality, the way I'm wired to be flexible in order to meet the needs, because that's a need. As a business owner, I have a need to network. And I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. And so I have to neutralize it. You know what I'm saying? I may not have as much energy as some other personalities. I may not be able to spend the entire night connecting with every person and remembering everybody's names, but let me go in there and get 10, 15 people cards, engage with them, have some thoughtful conversations. I may not be able to touch the 50. I can do the 10 to 15. And I can, you know what I'm saying? They're going to get in that's curious, that's interested, that cares, that's genuine, because that's who I am at my core. And I can do that, but I just can't do it for everybody.
Yeah. And so, even with self-awareness, man, like, success is really more achievable when our level of self-awareness grows and increases. Because what happens with self-awareness is that then I can make the right decisions for the right opportunities at the right time, right? Because it's really going to be all about, I'm literally being able to navigate more of my life and my decisions and the opportunities that come. And it's funny because when I even think about engagement also even puts you in position for opportunities, because you never know the conversations that you have that based on that conversation then opens and gives you access to something that you didn't know that you were that you didn't know was there until you actually did the engagement, right? There's so many conversations and I'm literally walking and living that now just through again being connected to these brothers and even in teaching and being a professor. Like, again, all the conversations I'm having, my conversations are just, again, opportunities to engage, to then open up other opportunities for me to just continue to grow, and even grow not just with other people, but grow myself. Like, the more and more engagement and more I talk and get outside of my comfort zone and do these different things, I find out more about myself. I actually, I think that's actually more exciting to me now if I think about it than anything, because just the growth that comes from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like I'm sitting here looking at myself right now and thinking about and listening to this, like, this cat is new. Like, I'm looking at it like, if you'd have caught me 5 years ago, 10 years, yeah, right. I'd be sitting here looking like, but it's through the engagement, it's through the self-awareness, it's through just being connected to you guys and just everything that we're building, again, life, leadership, and community, right? And the group and other groups that I'm connected with, and it's just all that stuff, just it all plays together, right? And again, it's just going back to when I kind of made that point of engagement and building bridges. Man, there's bridges all over the place, and the connections that we're making it's all about being able to engage and then grow and then engage again and then grow again, right? It's just, it's fun. Yeah. Good stuff.
And I would say too, I just kind of thinking back too with me, right? Because like I say, I'm reserved, but I'm people oriented, right? We talked about that. So you wouldn't think, when you see me in my element versus when I'm not in my element, which we've been saying, you wouldn't think that was me. And I just think of I've never been a person that likes to be around a lot of people, right? Mm-hmm. So tapping into, like Ian said earlier, my core, I was able to realize that, guess what? When there's something that's important to me, then I'm willing to step outside of that box per se and engage, right? So just a prime example, like I've never been a person that does parties and just like I said, being around people, but what could make you change that? So, and I'm going back to the kind of the relationship aspect, right? My wife, when I met her, her family, they like to get together and stuff, right? So guess what? I had to sacrifice me to go into those situations, right? On that tip, it wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel right being in the environment, but guess what? I sacrificed it for something that was at my core, something I loved, right? And it's the same situation when we talk about business. Ian made the example, right? I don't like the networking thing, search thing, crazy. Man, I'm not too many people being around in a group of people. But when it gets back to my core and my values about teaching people, right? Adding value to them, I'm willing to go into that environment, where it once was uncomfortable, but because I have a plan and I have a passion for something, as Sherrod was saying, talking about passion, our passions. Guess what? I step into that environment, I don't feel uncomfortable because I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to what? Engage individuals, right? And that's why I'm standing here today with you guys. Like Ian talked about, shoulder to shoulder with you guys, right? Because of that process. That process has come around and I've become more self-aware of who I am. And now I can step into those environments and I can speak to individuals and I can feel comfortable doing it because I'm on a mission.
Come on, bro. That's it, bro. Yeah, I mean, and I love what you said about you use the illustration of your relationship and how your wife's family loves getting together. Because that's another mission. We ain't here just talking about life, leadership, and community, right?
Yeah.
And over the years, look, I'm gonna say this hopefully without a lot of fanfare, nothing crazy. But my wife's and I's 10-year anniversaries next week.
That's right.
We've definitely had our ups and downs, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect. I won't say that about her, but I'm not, at least. And so, man, it's been a journey. But one of the things that I've learned in the latter years is that what we do or what we have together is bigger than either of us as individuals.
Yes.
The counsel we received was just it was so powerful. It's like the institution of marriage is greater than Ian and is greater than, you know what I'm saying? And that's the mission, bro. That's the mission. And that realization allowed us to put aside a lot of things that probably would have caused some marriages to end. It would have caused our marriage to end. But it allowed us to gain a greater appreciation for what we've built and what we have together. But I'm thinking about those early years, man. And you talked about your wife's family liking to get together. And my wife's not from where we're from, like where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? Her family's about a couple hours away. And so in the early years, we would often visit. She's got a lot bigger family, aunts and uncles, cousins. You know what I'm saying? Then she's got her church family. And they got aunts, uncles, and cousins. But you know what I'm saying? So what was difficult for me as a naturally reserved person was we'd try to go up around the weekend and we'd have to see everybody. We'd have to see everybody. And I cannot tell you how miserable I was. And I cannot tell you how unequipped I was at communicating how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so what that amounted to was me not being at my best, especially for her, in navigating those spaces. And let alone the other layers that can come along with our familiar situation.
Right.
That aside, like used to wear me out, bro. It used to wear me out. I'm like, we gotta go. We have somebody. We going over somebody's house in the morning. We got somebody scheduled at lunchtime. We got a whole nother family an hour or two away. It's scheduled at dinner time. And I'm talking about we get there on Friday. We seeing somebody. We go to bed. We got to get up early, go see somebody. We leave there and go see somebody else. We leave there and go see somebody else. Sunday morning, we wake up. We go see somebody before church. We go to somebody's church. And we spend, however long in there. Then we got to go back to their house for dinner. Boy.
Hey, I'm tired just listening. Wow.
I'm about to start yarning.
I'm ready to fight. That's that. Like almost be another human being. Almost nobody. You see me, we on site, fam.
Man,
we on site, but bro. Like, it took some time, like, to really understand. And there's, there was some factors at play in there. Like not wanting people to feel bad. Like, oh, well, we don't get to see him all the time. It's like, bro, we need to prioritize us.
Yeah.
And, you know what I'm saying? And so thankfully 10 years in, we ain't about that marathon no more. I'm not certain that I would be here. Something would
Yeah. That's that right growth. When you talk about coming back to self-awareness and that relationship, it's not about either or. It's about that communication coming together and saying, you know what, some things aren't worth our exhaustion in the long run, because we know we love them, and if they love us, they understand that we can't do this all the time, right? Because it's exhausting. You first you're driving a couple hours, that's exhausting by itself, and then it's nonstop seeing people till you wake up and go to sleep. Wake up.
Come on, bro. Hey, listen, I'm say that's a whole other episode. Some things just aren't worth your exhaustion, fam. Yeah. Look, we got 2 minutes. That's a note right there, bro. All these things that we talk about self-awareness and growth and how we're stretching ourselves and stepping outside of our comfort zone, but knowing the difference between what's worth your exhaustion and what's not. That's another level. That's another layer to self-awareness, bro.
Yep. So it looks like we know what we're talking about next week.
You trying to keep up with the Joneses in business when you ain't that guy that's always in the crowd, that's the life of the party. Nah, fam, that ain't me. I got to do me in this space. You know what I'm saying? I got to show up as my authentic self, the best version of me, so that I can push this thing, this initiative, this vision forward. But I'm not out trying to be like X and X dude who is the life of the party, who, you know what I'm saying, who doesn't mind having the spotlight on him 24/7, who just, you know what I'm saying, and they got a whole other set of challenges that they got to navigate. That I'm not built for. And so knowing what's worth your exhaustion, bro. Self-awareness, man. Brothers in Influence, life, leadership, and community. Let's go.
Right. Right.
Hey, he went in though.
Hey, that man, love you, brothers. But we have to learn to engage in the things that we have compassion about, that we're passionate about, so that we can be successful in those things.
Yeah. And I'm gonna leave it with this, because again, I kind of got I really like that growth and engagement component, just from a self-reflection aspect. But yeah, so my final words is this: like, we can't have the convenience of growth without the inconvenience of engagement. Okay, so meaning that we have to have engagement, right, in order to get that growth that we're really looking for. So you want the convenience of growth, but we're going to have that inconvenience of engagement, whatever that looks like for you.
Come on, bro. With that note, bro, we signing off. Season 2, episode 5, Brothers in Influence Community. We love y'all.
Yeah.
Yes,